I recently posted a video about my dad and telling his story because he's unfortunately not here to tell it anymore. Initially, when I made that video, I just did it for myself because I have been in a dark place and I just wanted to just talk it out and talk about him in hopes that it would make me feel better. Then I shared it with my mom, and she was the one that pushed me to share that story because it's a preventable one and it's a very common story, unfortunately. Throughout my life, I have never experienced any loss. I've been very fortunate. I was raised with like a belief in life after death. And the closest thing to death that I witnessed was people that I was close to or cared about losing someone that they were close to. And I always felt so sad for them. But nothing could have prepared me for the loss of my dad. I realized that I was a really weak person even before I lost my dad. And now that I'm older, I realize how just poor of mental health I had. I think my dad's death was kind of almost, I guess, I can't say. It was, I guess, my breaking point because for a while I felt that I was going to have the same ending as my dad. The day I lost my dad, I lost myself. That day was incredibly traumatizing. It was really hard because obviously I had just gotten in a fight with my dad. I had left with the mindset of he went a little too far. He's gonna like calm down and him and I are gonna be fine. He's gonna quit this drinking problem that he has because it was eye-opening. But after I left and after my uncle yelled for me, well, I fell apart, obviously. I didn't want to believe it. I felt like that was so absurd because truthfully, my dad was someone that was very anti-suicide. Like, I think most people in life are, but my dad was like, it's very big on like it is selfish, it is wrong, like you destroy all those around you, because he had experienced suicide in his life and he really drilled in like myself and my sister's heads that like suicide was one of the meanest things that you could do to someone. Out of all people to commit suicide, it just didn't make sense because he was so strong about how mean of a thing that is to do to someone. I don't want mean thoughts about my dad. I think that those feelings on suicide are wrong. So I would appreciate there not to be mean thoughts about my dad. I just don't think you realize that's just not what it is. And I think that is a common assumption about suicide, is that you're selfish and you're trying to hurt people. At least that's what I've heard so many times from so many different people, and that's just not the case of it. So I was shocked. And I had my little boy, my baby girl, and my nephew in my car. I have to get myself under control because I have these babies in the car and I can't scare them. So I got back in the car and I talked to them and I was like, it's okay guys, it's okay. Trying to remain calm. And then I called my husband, who was an hour, 45 minutes away. When I called him and I told him, his reaction was it kind of the same as mine. Like, no, there's no way that's true. Are you sure about that? I didn't go inside the house, so I wasn't positive, but I was pretty sure my uncle wouldn't do such a mean joke like that. I didn't have a vehicle. He had to ask to be drove home. And mind you, I immediately already felt pretty bad because I just got in a fight with him. Him and I just had the worst fight we've ever had. And I said to him, you're never going to see my family again. And that haunted me that I said those words to my dad when I knew that wasn't true. And I was embarrassed that him and I had fought. I felt like sick about it. I felt like, man, why did I even talk to him? Like, why did I come over here? This wouldn't have happened if it weren't for me. And I didn't want my husband having to tell people. And then I get a call from him again. Would I like his mom to come give the kids? And again, I said, nope, no. Because I didn't want anyone to be there. I felt bad, I felt embarrassed. And I was like, I just don't want anyone to know that I killed my dad. And then obviously right after, things, police show up. And I'm assuming they're made aware of kind of what had happened, that there was an argument, and then that my dad was now no longer alive. Of course, they come up and they want to talk to me because I am the leading lady in the story. They're talking to me and I am doing my best to not cry. I am apologizing for crying. I'm trying to laugh. And now, mind you, the police officer that is questioning me, I went to high school with. Immediately mortified because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to tell them about my dad and I fighting, and they're going to tell everyone because it's not a big town. Everyone finds out everything. They're going to make assumptions about my dad and I's relationship based off of this one day, which was terrifying to me because I was so close with my dad that the idea of people thinking that him and I weren't close was like crushing to me. While talking to the police officer, at this point, I already felt like 100% this is my fault. My dad's gone because of me. I killed my dad. I told the police officer if I needed to go to jail, I understood. I truly felt in my deepest of everything that I killed him. I might have not physically did it. If it weren't for me, he'd still be alive. So thus, since he's dead, I need to go to jail or prison. The police officer was, I think, immediately kind of taken back and like, and trying to like reassure me. But I was like, no, I understand. Like, if I need to go to jail, I get it. I deserve it. And then shortly after that, I think finally someone showed up that had like the police officer go away. I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying to just like remain calm for the kids, for whatever. My mother-in-law did eventually come and grab the kids from me, but I was staying away from everyone. I was silent because I felt terrible. Not only did I just lose my dad, who I did have a good relationship with, but I was the cause of it. So who am I to cry? I don't deserve to cry. I caused this. It's your fault. So get over it. I felt like if I cry, people are going to be disgusted with me. They're going to be angry with me. Again, who am I to get to cry over my dad dying? And I was pretty good. And then my husband did show up, and that was when I broke down. And then I tried to hurry up and get myself under control again. Now, the way I like to mourn, if I can, if I'm really not happy, I seclude myself. Luckily, my GMA had just moved the summer prior to that area where my mom was at. So we all got in the cars and went to my grandma's house. From that moment, I was never alone. There were, at one point, crisis counselors there that no one talked to because they were sent away. That's the story in of itself. Family was showing up and neighbors and whatever. People were coming. Obviously, all the sisters were with each other and mom, and there was just no secluding myself. And I was trying to not be emotional, trying not to cry, just trying to be strong the entire time. I felt bad for my sisters. I felt bad for my mom. I felt bad for my grandma. I felt awful. And when I saw my grandma, I was afraid. I was afraid to see her because I took her baby away and she's gonna hate me. when I was around people, I like didn't talk much. I tried to just kind of whatever. I didn't realize that the week of losing someone, how insane that week is, that you really just don't get a break. Yes, I didn't have to be like a mom. I didn't have to take care of my kids because I have amazing in-laws that took them in for me, other than my husband bringing my daughter every once in a while so I could feed her because she was still breastfeeding at the time. But there was, my dad was the breadwinner, and what was my mom gonna do? My mom wasn't working anymore. She was home. How is she gonna survive? So I was trying to figure out that for her, trying to take care of any sort of bills or debts that dad had, that so she wouldn't have to worry and be nervous and freak out, and that we would take care of her and cover her. And so there was calling on the phone constantly and talking to just random people, having to say, hey, this person's gone, like over and over and over and over again. And then on top of that, police are still coming around, are calling my phone saying they need to question me, they need to talk to me, they need to take pictures, whatever. I'm having to, again, to police officers, tell the story. At that point, these police officers, and I almost wonder if it was my fault for saying if I need to go to jail, they started to try to act as if maybe my mom or my uncle did something. And that was horrifying because I was like, this is my fault, and now these police officers are questioning if my mom or uncle did something. They're already hurting and suffering, and rightfully so. I caused this. Why is there any sort of blame being put on them when it's me? I felt even worse for that. I had been sleeping on the couch and everything, and my mom said, well, why don't you just come sleep with me one of these nights in one of the beds? So I did. That night, I had a really bad night terror. Thought someone was attacking me, and a voice, and then I opened my eyes, and I see that I have my mom's hair in my hand. And my mom's eyes she's just in complete, like, terror. I wanted to throw up. I just attacked my mom. I got in a fight with my dad, and I lost my dad. Now I'm in the middle of the night attacking my poor mom, who's already going through so much, and I hurt her. Felt so sick. I was like, I'm so sorry, and then I ran away from her. And she was trying to tell me, it's okay, but I was just like, no, I can't. I am such an awful, evil, terrible human being. And then the next morning, my mom was like talking about and laughing about it, and she's like, oh, honey, it's okay, like it was a night terror, you didn't mean to, like you're fine. And I was trying to laugh, and it was just kind of another like mark off of, you are evil, awful, terrible daughter. You hurt your mom in the worst way possible by taking away her husband, and now you just physically attacked your mom. You evil, awful human being. But everyone is laughing about it. I already like to mourn alone, but after that I felt like for the safety and protection of my family, I need to like get away from them. They shouldn't have to be in the presence of such a vile person. They were still having to funeral things and making decisions with that, and just kind of supporting my mom in the decisions, and then also going and looking at him. So I think either a night or two before I went home for the first time, before his funeral. And that was like the first night that I completely like just let myself just like break down. My husband came in to comfort me, and then I would try not to cry, and I'd say I'm sorry. He tried to be there for me, but I felt such guilt in the pain that I was feeling. And I didn't want anyone to see me because I felt like I didn't deserve to be sad. And so I did, kind of push him away. And on my dad's funeral, it was the same thing. I had wrote my dad a letter and put in pictures of my kids into the letter, and I had left it at our house. Drove to the funeral with my mom and my uncle. And so my husband had to turn around and go back and go get the letter because I was having a full-blown panic attack, thinking I didn't have like a last thing for him. My mom stood by his casket the entire time, and I was alone. distancing myself from people, and some people would come over by me, but I felt so much guilt being there and felt so bad for getting to talk or whatever because I caused it. Felt like people knew, and then I felt even worse, and then people were even coming up to me at the funeral and saying little comments of like, this isn't your fault, and that was even another reassurance of like, oh, they know what happened, this is my fault. And some people even would say things like kind of somewhat, which I don't think they meant to, but about like, this is your dad, and putting blame on him, and it was hurtful to me that they would in any way say that he shouldn't have gotten upset with you, or he shouldn't have. It was just hurtful to hear anyone say anything negative towards him when he didn't deserve that. He didn't even get to have a real funeral. This has been like the height of everything, like the very beginning of COVID. And not very many people got to come. It was like streaming on Zoom or whatever and things like that. And people had to be separated and all that. It was just like no one really got to be there. And it was just so undeserving. Like he was such a good man and he was so there for so many people. And he was like that sweet, friendly neighbor that he deserved like this big funeral, this big goodbye, and he didn't get that. And as I'm sitting there and thinking about his funeral, watching this in my head, I'm thinking, why couldn't it have been me? A funeral like this is what my family needs to go through because they're going to be mortified when no one shows up. But here's this incredible, amazing man that's done so much for so many people, and he doesn't even get to have what he does, and that's my fault. I deserve this type of funeral, not my dad, and I was devastated. After the funeral, people offered to take our kids and just watch them for a little bit longer, but I was like, no, it's okay, it's fine, and we took our kids home and immediately had to get back into mom mode. People really rally around the week of, and they really care, and they're there, and then life gets back to normal. Everyone's life goes back to the way it is, and that's just, and even when losing someone, like you have to get back to your own life. You don't get to sit and wallow for months. You have to get back to life. And that's so much harder than I thought it would be. The people I saw and witnessed lose someone were always so strong. They always seemed so good and okay, and like they were doing just fine. And I was over here suffocating, not wanting to get out of bed, only doing it because I had to take care of my kids, but praying for the day to just end, watching the clock, hoping for bedtime. I felt terrible because I'm a mom. Like my kids deserve a better mom than that. My kids don't deserve a mom that wants to go to bed the moment she wakes up. So I feel terrible. I feel like I'm not deserving of them. After the funeral, I was like, I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to see my family. I was afraid of my family, especially my dad's side, because I just felt like everyone probably knows kind of the situation and they're gonna hate me. My dad's family is amazing people. They're good people. So it was nothing of them. It was just me feeling unworthy to be a part of that family. And while I'm going through this and hurting, I'm hearing that people that I had once been close with were reaching out to other people that I'm close with, asking them what had happened and wanted to know the details of my dad's death. Not even asking if I'm okay or seeing how I'm doing, which was insulting. Death is a hard thing and you don't necessarily even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. What right words are there? There really isn't any. And I didn't expect anyone to reach out. And for those who did, it was really kind of them. But to find out that there was people that I had once been close with were asking about details of my dad's passing and wanting to know all that and hadn't even reached out to me, that had hurt my feelings. It just felt nosy. And I wasn't angry with people because I understand it. It's interesting. An unexpected death, it is just an immediate, oh my goodness, what happened? Like that's the first question. What happened? And then if it's a suicide, it's why? Those are the natural questions that come along, and I understand that. I get it. There's no anger in that, but there is hurt, and it made me realize what seems to be innocent really isn't. And it does affect those that are suffering with the loss. And it's changed my reaction to when finding out that someone's passed away. Also at the same time, because once again, it was an unexpected death and it was a suicide, so there's going to be 100 questions that follow. There were people that, I don't know how they knew that my G-mom was my mom's mom, because she's not from that area. There had been people that went up to her at the grocery store and said to her, "I'm sorry for your loss." And then they said, "Oh, I heard that he did this because he lost his job." And my grandma, of course, responded with, "Of course, that's not true." And they immediate response is, "Oh, well, what happened?" And to find out that that was something that was happening, that my grandma was getting that question, of course, then maybe other people were doing that. Again, I understand it, but it was surprisingly incredibly hurtful to find out that people would be doing that. Truthfully, at the end of the day too, there was a little bit of fear in that, because I felt bad about my part in it. I felt embarrassed. I felt disgusting. I didn't want people to, one, think lowly of my dad because there was a fight, and then be like, well, he shouldn't have, in order to protect me. But also, I didn't want people to think that Dad and I didn't have this good relationship. Like, I felt like I needed to protect my relationship and explain my relationship with him. But then on top of that, I started to think, am I inflating this relationship in my head? Am I making our relationship bigger than it really was? So things were difficult, and people would start to talk to me and say, you know, you need to get over this. This isn't your fault. Random little things. Some people would talk to me about things. I was finding out that I had turned into the example of what not to do and being slow to anger, and I was now at that example, and that was mortifying. I felt terrible. I would call my mom to check up on her because I didn't want her to feel abandoned, but I also wanted to stay away from her because I felt like if she saw me, I was going to be a reminder. My dad was gone, and you're the main reason why. And I didn't want to see my sisters because I, again, felt like I'm this reminder. Maya comes into the room and it's, oh, Joe's dead and it's your fault. I started to just kind of spiral. I lost a lot of my testimony and things. I was like really shaken. The quarantining was really big, and so churches were no longer going on. It was like all online. So it was easy to just get lazy with church and kind of completely cut that out of my life. I started to question if there was life after death, because I had been told that by so many people that they had experienced seeing their parent or their child, whatever, a passing of someone, and seeing them and talking to them, and had all these experiences, yet I lost my dad and he wasn't coming and talking to me. And so my conclusions were either there's nothing after or he hates me. I just wanted to feel nothing. I just wanted to kind of drift away, and Dad drank. Might as well see what is so great about it. People saying like, you know, it removes things from your mind, like it calms you down, whatever it may be. And I was just like, okay, I want to feel that way. So I did, and I wanted to be out as much as possible and not feel anything as much as possible. Doing it one night and then laying in bed and starting to cry and saying to my dad, trying to talk to my dad and letting him know, like, hey, I don't think I'm better than you. I never did think I was better than you, but just in case you think I thought that, like, I don't think I am. I'm on the same level as you, bro. Like, you can come visit me now. Pleading with him to come talk to me, and he didn't. Realized pretty quick I don't like it. I felt like a hypocrite because I had always said, like, alcohol was something I was never going to have in my life. My children were not going to have that a part of their life. My situation with being raised with it and the negative that I had seen with it, I just never wanted to have a part of my life. That wasn't like a long lasting thing, but it was just like, that was so like not me. I've always been a really obnoxious person that talks and doesn't stop talking, and so When I was younger, I had experienced a lot of times when talking about myself or my feelings, people start to kind of doze off, or you can see their eyes like wandering, and you can just tell that they just don't care about the conversation, or people sitting on their phones while I'm talking about a situation that I'm feeling, or people waiting to respond with like what's going on with them. Most experiences, I just didn't have a listening ear. I could always tell that people really were tired of me talking. So I stopped. I got to a point where I wouldn't talk about myself. My natural reaction is to switch conversations about other people and talk about them and see how they're doing and ask about their problems and let them get into what they're going through. I didn't want to experience that feeling of people not really listening to me and not really hearing my feelings, that especially during this, on top of that, but then also having a lot of guilt for feeling as sad as I was, I started to just film myself in moments and talk about how I was feeling, just to get it out somewhere, and maybe then go back and look back when I'm feeling stronger or something. I don't really know why, but that was like my coping. As time was going on, things were just getting worse and worse. I was pushing people away, not really talking to people like I used to, finding myself wanting to disappear even more. I also, since the moment my son was born, my life became him, and I never really got to be alone. I had like small moments of being alone, but I never really got a break from being a mom. And that was something that even before I lost my dad, I was like, I just really need to have like a little bit more breaks. Like, I need me time. I found that I was just trying to have my husband and my kids go away as much as possible so that I could just be alone. My husband and I had a really good relationship before my dad died. Like, we have been through like ups and downs like any normal people, but we were really good for a while. Things were going really, really great. I was starting to push him away, which was starting to affect him, which then started to obviously affect our relationship, and he was starting to be hurt by me because I was hurting. I tend to feel a lot of guilt whenever I'm hurting or upset, just in general in life. If I'm hurt by something or bothered by something someone does, I'm like, oh, maybe I overreacted. That's just kind of the way I go about it. And if I ever express my feelings of like feeling frustrated over something, if I make someone else sad while I'm expressing, I feel like so terrible. And then I feel guilty for making someone hurt over the fact that I was hurting. At this point now, I was hurting because I lost my dad and I was really suffering with that, but also I felt bad because, oh, I'm hurting him. My pain is hurting my husband. And it was just a spiral of things. As I was really having a really low day, and I finally decided I would call the suicide hotline. And so I went in my closet and I called. When I called, they said hello, and I immediately said, I don't know if this is the right one, and I'm bawling at this point. So I don't know if this is the right one to call, and all of a sudden, click. And the phone ended. I don't know what happened. I don't know if the call failed or what had happened, but the call dropped. And that was kind of like my pushing of, okay, that's the sign. I remember waking up, and that day I was looking at the clock all day, waiting for bedtime so that I could take my life. I'm alone, and I just don't have the energy to keep trying. And I'm in a place where, how are you? Is a sensitive question. I just want to hug my dad. I just want to hug my dad. I just want to tell him sorry. She was like, I hope you don't find this weird. Like, I know this is strange. I've just been thinking about you. It meant a lot. And then I heard a little voice tell me, go wake up your husband.